called MSc 3D Design for Virtual Environments. So it really is what it says in the tin. It's 3D design, and that could be quite a host of things. It could be 3D characters, 3D environments. It includes animation, it includes rendering, visual effects. So it's quite a broad range of things. So I'm going to try and break some of these down for you. So the program has this kind of overarching name that's called 3D Design for Virtual Environments, but you could also get a name on your certificate that is 3D Design for Architecture, 3D Design for Computer Games, and 3D Design for Visual Effects. Now, all of them are an MSc, Master of Science, but the differences are just really if you're mapping to a particular industry. Now, your master's project would have to be heavily involved in an architectural, computer games, or a visual effects context. But the difference is it's just if you know you're planning to go into a particular industry, it may help your CV, for example, map to that particular industry. So it's not really important the naming here of whatever the option that you decide to choose. You would just have to have a specialization in that particular area. So if you don't choose one of these, then you'll just get the standard 3D Design for Virtual Environments MSc award. So the department is part of the Applied Computer Games department at Glasgow Caledonian University. We are ranked #1 in Scotland and #2 in the UK for animation and game design based on the Guardian's 2024 rankings. There's 15 academic staff with various specialisms and various support staff and teaching assistants. There's people who are specialised. Well, firstly, we have generalists and people who specialise in a broad range of topics within animation and game art. So it's everything from 3D modelling, character rigging, environment art, things like that. Then we have specialists in things like game design. We have specialists in the programming side of things, so scripting and things like that, which we don't really cover a lot in the 3D design aspect because we focus more on the visual content. So it's a very successful department. We are also recruiting for additional staff members within that department, actually, as we speak. So yeah, that's that. The relevant industry pathways are, so we tend to use this term industry, and it's actually made up of various industries. Now, this is just a snapshot where you could get into computer games, architecture, VFX, engineering, product design, or advertisement. But to be honest with you, there's so many different industries that this is mappable to. So like Google and Apple, they have 3D content. Facebook have 3D content. They're working on metaverse stuff. So they're making 3D characters. So this would map to this particular degree. So there's really the world is your oyster with this, in that there's many industries that would map to it. I know people who work in engineering with this skill set. I know people who work in architecture. I know plenty of people, obviously, in computer games and VFX. Every other advert on TV has some form of either digital 3D character or digital 3D asset that's been animated. So there really is lots of different options for you when you graduate. So this is just a list of some of the. I won't go into this in too much detail because really, again, the world is your oyster with the options, and this is just some of our student destinations from our graduates. So Rockstar Games, Solis, which is a architectural visualization company, Jacobs Engineering Company, Blaze and Griffin does movies. They've been doing work on Outlander, as do Left Bank Pictures. MPC, for example, you see there, they worked on The Lion King and for Disney. And also the Jungle Book. So there's a wide array of this is just a snapshot of some of our student destinations, but there's plenty of companies locally in Glasgow and Scotland and throughout the UK that are employing our graduates. Core applications that you'll use are 3ds Max for modeling, animation, and rendering. We also heavily use Unreal Engine, Unreal Engine 5, obviously. We also will use Maya quite a bit on the course, and there's other options where some students have got prior experience with Blender. So we'll teach how to 3D model in 3ds Max, but a lot of the skills are transferable with things like Blender. There's options to use various software. We'll texture heavily with Substance Painter, which is an industry standard software that's used predominantly in the games industry, but it's great for texturing photorealistic and stylized characters, environments, etc. We also obviously teach all the Adobe CC package, so particularly Photoshop and After Effects. The average salary, now this one's a little bit out of date. So this is one of the ones it's difficult to get the research on the average salary across industries because it fluctuates, and it fluctuates by company and by industry. So this example is from 2022. So that is a bit out of date, especially with the inflation that's been happening globally. So these are loose figures that are slightly out of date, and I would expect these to be maybe a couple of grand more. But again, I'm just going to tap into the last research that was done on this. This obviously research is due to be updated. Starting salary for a junior can be around 28k. Again, I would expect that to maybe hopefully be a little bit higher. Intermediate, 35,000. Again, this is UK pounds, and then a senior around about 45k. The working environment is mostly either hybrid or fully working in the office. Like, this industry is very adaptable. When COVID hit, we weren't really affected a whole lot. In fact, our industry got a little bit better in that a lot of people were asking for digital content. Because we work predominantly with computers, we're not out filming and things like that. We are sitting, animating. We can use remote software, kind of similar to what we're doing just now. So there is a lot of the industry that's either fully remote or hybrid working. So yeah, like in most cases, it will either be fully remote, or you'll be maybe 2 or 3 days per week working in the office and the rest at home. So it's quite good for flexibility, and there is a big culture towards that flexibility for staff. So what I've got here is some prior and current student examples. So this is an environment that was done in Unreal Engine 5. The student was focusing really on the texturing aspect, so creating tiles and texture breakup. And this may look okay, it may look good to you, it depends on your expectations, but the power of this is they're really adopting a pretty current contemporary industry standard workflow where they're using tile and breakup materials. So this is all with a handful of materials, so it would run really performant in a game engine. So you can see lots of dirt and grime and moss. So the student did a research project in Unreal Engine and set all these materials up using the Unreal's material editor. We have this is actually something that a current student has just submitted for one of their assignments. So in the first term, we'll introduce you and we'll go quite quickly. We'll take you from beginner to a fairly advanced level fairly quickly. So this student, first time they'd ever modelled anything in 3ds Max, they dabbled a bit in 3D, but this was really their first proper project in 3ds Max, where it was modelled in 3ds Max, textured in Substance Painter, and then rendered back in 3ds Max. So it was just a prop asset that could go in this could technically go in a game, or it could be used as an advertisement. So the vehicle for this, the student designed a project around a hypothetical advertisement for something like this based on a 1980s TV. This is another current student where they had decided to do a game workflow for a military radio, something that you'd maybe find in like a Call of Duty or Battlefield game. And again, it's just all about attention to detail with the 3D models, the textures, and making it low poly and baking normal maps. And if you don't know what that is, That's some of the stuff that we'll teach you in the first term of the course. Some examples of architecture. These softwares that we use are very much used in the architecture industry for visualizing spaces that either don't exist yet. They're used to pitch to clients, pitch to boards of directors. They can obviously be used, the same software can be used to animate. So we could have things animate in here if you wanted to drawers open, and if you wanted to show more of industrial space, we could animate things in there, show how something can move from A to B or this location to that location. It comes with photorealistic lighting. Obviously, you would set that up in the software, and we'll show you how to do that. But it allows us to do a photorealistic representation of almost anything, which is really powerful, and industry really values it. More of a game environment, so in this kind of stylized toon shader, similar to like Borderlands or something like that, where again, this would be a 3D environment and immersive. The student would have showed you how to walk through it and interact with these objects. So again, the students get a lot of flexibility on the course where they can pick their own pathways and they can pick their own visual styles. And then this would be an example of a student choosing a more stylized approach rather than photorealistic. So it looks a bit what some people would call cartoony. Yeah. This is just a stylized axe. Again, this is a current student who just submitted this recently. Focus here is more of a stylized game, almost a low poly, low fidelity look, but brought into the 21st century with nice looking textures with emissive maps. You can see all this illuminated runes and stuff like that on it. This is an example of a student who's wanting to specialise in medical visualisation, so slightly different from your usual architectural side of things. This student wants to work in the medical industry, so they decided to create this thing, which is I believe it's a CT scanner. Characters, there's going to be plenty of opportunity to do character art on the course. This is just a kind of military drone character. Again, we'll cover all that, and usually in the second term we'll start to go deep into this. We'll teach software like ZBrush, Maya will show you how to retopologize this. So taken from, for example, the mesh on the right is a much higher density than the mesh on the left, so we'll show students how to optimize their meshes and make them more game ready. The lower number of edges in there, the better it's going to run in a game engine. This is a scan of a local castle that was destroyed or has eroded over the years. And what this student did was they done a 3D scan of it and then built how it used to look like, and they were able to show a cultural heritage style project where they were able to show how the building is now, how it used to exist, and it kind of builds on top of that. I would show the video, but it's a little bit clunky to show videos in a presentation. But yeah, they actually built a full 3D representation of this and compared the old and new. And this is the last slide, last example. So this is, it's maybe not the best visual quality. You may look at it and think it's not particularly photorealistic, but a project like this is really beneficial from a functionality standpoint. So what this is a car configurator. So if you look at Mercedes, McLaren, a lot of the high-end companies, they tend to have these configurators on their website. So this is an Unreal Engine example where you can go in, and when you're buying a Tesla, for example, you can go in and change the car, change the colour of the seat, the colour of stitching, what type of leather, what type of wheels. And so these are interactive, customizable, and they go on the car company's website. So it allows, again, us to use our 3D technology. We would build all the 3D cars and then use Unreal Engine to have an interactive experience for the users that get embedded onto the car company's website. So again, another example that's, it's not necessarily games or entertainment, it's a bit more functional in the real world, a bit more purpose around it. That's really it from me. This was just a bit of a very brief snapshot of the course, but I'm open to taking any questions if you have any more details. Obviously, we're situated in Glasgow, which is, I think, depending on what metric you use, I think it's the third largest city in the UK. So it's very much known as a student city where we have several universities, and there's a big student culture in a couple of areas of the city. So it's a multinational city. There's lots of people come from all over the world to study here. So it is a good place to study. But yeah, if you've got any specifically focused questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. If not, we can do a bit of a Q&A just now. So just feel free to ask away. No questions?
Okay, it looks like we don't have any questions coming in the chat box just now. If anybody does have any questions after the session, do feel free to email those in to us and we'll pick them up. I would just like to thank Martin for his presentation. I found it really interesting. Hope everybody else did. And thank you to everybody for attending this afternoon. If we don't have any further questions, I think we can end the webinar here.